Okay. George Kontos. We'll ask him about Casey Smith's chase rate. We'll ask him about his golf game. But you know what? Last night.
10 in a row?
Last night. 10 in a row for the Giants. 10 in a row for the Giants. They did the last tweet for BPA. It's pretty funny.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at it.
10 in a row for the Giants. First time they've won 10 in a row since 2004. George Kontos joins us, two-time World Series champ. Game has been on point on NBC Sports Bay Area. I watched the entire postgame show last night. I got to say, Carlos and George was on it with the play in the bottom of the fifth inning. Sam Lubbock, get the video ready for our YouTube audience. George, good morning. Welcome back to the Morning Roast. You were on fire. We could talk about the Giants win, Camilo Duvall, this bullpen's coming together, but I want to start with the play at the bottom of the fifth inning. You are irate. I felt like you felt like me. It kind of ruined the baseball game for me. That play there with Blake Sabol and Gary Sanchez. I get the whole letter of the law, the rule book or whatnot. But come on, man. Where's the common sense? Where's the feel of it? It's a great throw by Tatis Jr. It killed their momentum there. That's a terrible, terrible call that we saw it on back-to-back days.
Well, first of all, good morning, fellas. You get me fired up again right here first thing in the morning, getting back fired up. But, yeah, I mean, it's agreed. You have to have a little feel. We were watching Bob Melvin's post-game show, and there has to be some sort of gray area. It can't just be, 1 foot left of the line and whatever kind of rules you want to imply on it. Tatis threw a great throw, but it did bring Gary Sanchez up the line a little bit, so he had to move, and he had to first and foremost secure the ball. And I've been watching the replay for the last 5 minutes. Blake Sabol never veered to the right to try and avoid the slide until Gary Sanchez had the ball and was trying to go to apply the tag. And, I know this went in the Giants' favor, which is wonderful, but you have to have some sort of clarity on this rule where, the guy on the field, the umpire on the field, if he doesn't notice an egregious move or an effort by the catcher to actually block the pass, this reviewable stuff in New York just kind of causes a lot more confusion because everyone just gets either angry because it's against their team as a fan or happy because it's for their team. But there was nothing that was, where he was trying to block the plate. There was no point where the collision was ever going to happen. He had to get the ball. Then you have to make an effort to tag the runner. And he had the ball 3 full steps before Blake Sabol got to him. So it was one I disagreed with. I'm glad it did go in the Giants' favor, but it absolutely changed the momentum of the entire game.
Well, it's interesting to me because there's a variety of things here. First off, Sanchez is set up on the inside of home plate, which is where you're going to be, so you can give him the outside lane, right? And you're talking about the throw, bringing him up the line, which is 100% true. And obviously the throw beats him. So now he has the ball. It's not a swipe opportunity. It's I should use, at minimum, 2 hands to tag this guy to make sure that the ball doesn't go crazy. And I'm not going to just stand still like it's a force play at first base so that the ball goes flying and not only does the run score, but the other runners advancing. Like, there's so many non-baseball arguments from people that have never played catcher or had a guy coming down on you. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And, let's just say Blake Sabol stops in this position, and now we're in a rundown. So I have to give him a lane in a rundown situation, or am I going to run him back to the base on the line? Do you get where I'm going on this? There's so many flaws in it, and I just go back to common sense. He's out by a mile.
I mean, I agree with you. Everything you just said, I agree with. I think that you have to have some common sense, and there are a lot of people who are like, "Oh, well, his foot was on the inside,
So
the outside
stupid.
of the baseline, more towards the third base side." If you look at that and you just press pause, his foot is 6 inches on the other side of the line, but all of his body weight, everything, the whole mass of his body is still on the inside of the base.
Exactly.
I mean, with Blake Sabol coming in on the outside, he obviously chose the outside lane. You could see it clearly from that camera angle behind Gary Sanchez. I mean, you have to shift your weight to try and make a tag. I mean, otherwise, what are you going to do? Sit there and then just reach out and have him go around you anyways. So it was one of those things where I totally agree with you. I think you need to have some common sense. I think with all the nitpicking on the lane and this and that, I mean, there was nothing egregious. There was no contact. There was no, shin guard into the runner. He just had to move and veer more towards him, which you typically would always do anyway to try and make a tag.
Dude, George was on fire last night, man. He was ticked off, and I couldn't believe Carlos Ramirez actually agreed with you because, look, man, we're all Giants fans. We want them to do well. It's good for business.
But what's
They're
wrong
playing
is
good
wrong.
baseball, but I'm not going to lie, George. It literally ruined the game for me, and I'm just thinking to myself, 2 nights in a row. It kills the momentum. Like, look, the Giants end up winning. They scored the next 3 runs there. But, boy, you talked about the karma baby hitting the Giants because Yaz goes down. So how's this team doing it with all these guys dropping like flies here? Can they sustain this into July with all these injuries here, George?
Well, I'll tell you what, I said this on the postgame show last night, and they're being tested right now. They're having guys needing to come up and just fill one of the chains in the link. And guys are coming up, and they're doing a great job. This is very reminiscent for me of 2021, maybe not to the extent, but, Yaz going down again, and Haniger having a broken wrist and having to have surgery and all that. But 2021 was a team of resiliency where one guy went down, somebody else came in, and it was business as usual. And you're starting to have that same feel right now, on top of the fact that the last month and a half almost, they've been playing the best baseball in the big leagues. So the injury bug hasn't really been noticed as much because of how well the team has been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to go back to the play, though, as a pitcher, because B&B were talking about this, and it's just interesting. Like, a guy makes an error, next guy comes up, hits a jack. You could have got out of the inning. A guy boots a ball at shortstop or whatever. It could have been a double play instead. It ends up being a long inning. Doesn't it feel like it always happens like that? They blow a call, which would have ended the inning, and then, boom, Jock comes through, a couple of extra runs. Like, there is a Murphy's Law element to this. You've been on the hill. What did it feel like for you, Darvish? Because it felt like the momentum was completely zapped from them.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It changes. It really tests your emotional and mental stability at that point in time when a call like that happens. Because once that play happens and that initial out call is made where you've gunned down Blake Sable at the plate, and Tatis makes it, everyone's running off the field. You have initially, as you, Darvish, you've let your guard down. In your mind, this inning is over. And you're walking back into the dugout, and they're going to hit, they're going to maybe score a run, whatever. That's like what your mentality and your thought process is. Then that completely changes, and you have to lock right back into a high-pressure situation, and it's just very difficult to do. I mean, not many people are very good at that, especially when you're emotionally frustrated that I can't believe they made this call and that I disagree with that. That's bullcrap or whatever you're thinking. You have to now go back and pitch to Major League Baseball hitters in a huge situation with momentum having completely shifted. So it is different. And if you are able to kind of get back to the exact same form and intent that you had prior, you are one of the few people that has mastered the emotional maturity of your life.
The aces are never going to go away, like a Logan Webb or Verlander, for example, guys that are just absolute studs. But what they're doing right now, patchwork, and I'd like to see them get at least 1, if not 2 starters, but doing what they're doing, it's got a tournament ball, travel ball feel to it, where they're going 3-4 innings with certain guys. I mean, it's really brought out the best in some of their pitchers. Like Sean Jelly, I've never seen him look like that. That breaking ball that he had going yesterday, that's the best I felt like he's looked for that long of a period of time. Do you think that this is sustainable around the game? Not that you're going to do it on every single, rotation, but like maybe moving forward, this is a little more viable than we think, the patchwork bullpenning thing.
I've always been a guy who's been in favor of kind of having your roles and having your predictability. And, these guys have come in, you're right, and done a fantastic job. Keaton Wynn has looked great. Tristan Beck has looked really, really good. Last night, Sean Jelly, with all of his moving parts and all 6'8" or 6'9" of him, did a great job. I still think, though, that when you go with these bullpen games, it's not necessarily the amount of innings per se, but the amount of ups that guys are getting throughout the course of the season. Those start to add up. Last night was Tyler Rogers' 32nd appearance. He's made close to 80 before, but 80 appearances in a season is a lot of appearances, and that takes a toll in August and September when you start to ride on fumes. And my only concern is that these guys are really going to start racking up these appearances. And as well as the Giants are playing right now, and I hope they continue to do this throughout the course of the season, but every cog in the link is firing on all cylinders, and they're playing A+ all the way around the game. At some point, they may not be doing that, and you're going to have to lean on another leg to kind of get you through when one of these other pieces doesn't quite do what it's been doing. And the last thing that I would hate to see is the bullpen just start to fade in August and September when this team is trying to contend for an NL West title.
No doubt. George Kontos here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game, two-time World Series champ with the San Francisco Giants, doing a hell of a job on television on NBC Sports Bay Area with Laura Britt and Carlos Ramirez. They're on fire. Last night, the Giants beat the Padres for the third straight game. They're looking for their third straight sweep today, an afternoon game with Alex Wood on the mound. Hey, could you do this, George Kontos? Could you be an opener? How would that work? Because, as you just said, it does feel like that stress on the yards, as we're not even in July yet, could catch up to you. I wonder how you would recover from that.
I think that I would have been fine if the opener was a little bit more prevalent when I was playing. I think it was just starting to be introduced into the game when I was on my way out of being a player. I don't know that I would have liked being the opener because once you're done, there is a lot of downtime for the next 8 innings of that game. And as a bullpen guy, you get to sit around and watch the game, talk with the guys, talk shop, whatever you're going to be doing. And then you have your routine where you get ready for whatever situation would arise that you may be going into later in that game. So, these guys like Ryan Walker last night, he threw that first inning, and then he had 3 hours almost to, sit around and be a cheerleader, which is great. I just don't know that I would have liked to have that kind of downtime after I've already gone in and done my job for the day, maybe gone and done my shoulder exercises, etc. And then you head back down to the dugout and you just watch the game. It just would have been a different experience and not a traditional bullpen experience like I had been used to my entire career.
Talk about this vibe in the clubhouse right now, because it seems like the youngsters are messing with the veterans. You see Brady Crawford schooling Casey Schmidt. Casey Schmidt made a slick play at second base late in the game to throw out Fernando Tatis Jr. What is it like in that clubhouse when you are rolling? You've been part of 2 World Series teams. Give us the vibe in there. How are they feeling as they drive to the ballpark today to try to sweep the Padres?
Well, there's lots of smiles, obviously. When you're having a good time like this and you're having the type of success that this team is having, the game is so much fun, and it almost just comes a little bit easier than it typically would if you were grinding. These guys are going in, they're having these parties in the clubhouse after the game. All the kids are lining up. Crawford's giving, hugs to his family afterwards. Everyone's having a great time. Driving to the ballpark today, though, is business as usual. They're coming in with a little bit more confidence riding a 10-game win streak, but the good thing about these guys is you play so many games that you really have to compartmentalize all those emotions of what the night before brought, and you kind of got to decompress and then come back and get ready to do it again. So they're definitely, once they get to the clubhouse and they're walking in, they're around the guys, there's definitely an aura of confidence around this team right now when you've gone, I think it's like 23-9 in your last 32 games. Mm-hmm. They're playing with a ton of confidence. It's a lot of fun to watch, and each win and each good game that they have puts another little block of foundation in the momentum that they have going. So the longer they can keep this going, obviously, the better. With an NL West that looks like it's going to end up being a tight race down the road. Yeah, with the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks rolling. They win yesterday against the Milwaukee Brewers. Dodgers shut out the Angels. But real quick on the Padres before we let you go. After Tuesday's game, George, I was blown away by the bad base running, the lack of fundamentals that they're displaying out there on the diamond, the walks late in the game, whether it's Josh Hader, whether it's Carlton, whether it's Garcia. The Padres are a bad, bad team. 3 straight games they're running the out to third base. Just give us a quick impression of the Padres as they're slumping right now, losing 3 straight to the Giants. Yeah, I agree. I definitely think they're underperforming. When you start looking up and down that lineup, just with the guys that you're going to be facing, you're kind of scratching your head being like, how are these guys under 500? Because their pitching staff, their starters, the back end of that bullpen, the 3-4 guys that they're going to use if they have leads, on paper are really, really good. And these guys are really, really good. They're kind of in a funk right now. They're not playing their best baseball. But, when you got Josh Hader typically coming in the 9th inning and Nick Martinez, who's done a great job, and Luis Garcia, who couldn't find the strike zone the other day, but that guy throws 97, 98-mile-an-hour bowling balls with a slider. We are running into these teams whose bullpens are struggling, and we're taking advantage of it, which is what you're supposed to do. But the Padres, at some point, you assume, right? Nobody knows. Nobody has a crystal ball. But at some point, you assume that the Padres are going to figure it out, and they're going to play to the level of baseball that they're capable of, which just adds another team at the top of this division that can make some noise. And as we all know, this year, we're playing all these teams 6 less times.
No.
So the more games that we can win head-to-head, you rely less on other teams beating these guys late in the year when you need some ground to make up. So the Padres are underperforming. We need to continue taking advantage of it. I mean, I think today's going to be an interesting one. Blake Snell has been real nasty his last month. He's got an ERA of 0.5 in the month of June, just threw 6 scoreless against the Rays, his former team, with 12 punchies. So today's going to be another big test for him, and hopefully we can get this winning streak up to 11.
And let's see if Alex Wood can put together a good start here. They need some starting pitching in the worst way. We know DeSclafani is scuffling a little bit here. Alex Wood just came back off the IL last Saturday, pitched 5 good innings against the Dodgers, only threw 67 pitches. So a big game because they don't face each other, to your point, George, until August 31st, Padres and Giants. August 31st when they next meet. They next meet the Dodgers September 21st, so the schedule is wacky. Are you on TV today?
I am on TV, just in a few hours.
All right, let's do it. We'll see you. We'll see what you're rocking there with the shoe game. Laura Britt, Carlos Ramirez.
I need him to work with some of our young pitchers. That's what I need to get him out there.
George is on fire right now, man. And I know the golf game's on point, too. We know that for sure.
Oh, always. Golf games, I'm always working on that now. That's my new pitching delivery is the golf swing.
Yeah, I've just been getting out there, too. I'm a rookie on the course, so I'm not playing you no scratch golfer. You're not taking my money, George. Well, we'll see you on television later on today, man. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. George Kontos, man, he's really good on the tube. Really, really good.